Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to see all these bright faces here in the room, and I'm absolutely actually excited to have a satellite here that is so food-focused. I feel like my master plan since 2019 to sneaking food to the Music Tech Fest finally came into being. So, my name is Fransisca. I will try to connect a bit to what Jan already presented for us yesterday in his session. I'll try to give a short insight into my background, spark some ideas, and present one project that kind of turned into more of a mindset for me and my work. So, I do actually have a background in IT communications and cognitive sciences, but there's a simple reason of me being quite obsessed about food that I kept on coming back to that one thing that is realizing that within my interdisciplinary studies of cognitive sciences, I was allowed and encouraged to look at a topic which is like trying to understand cognition and the mind and our brains from different disciplines. And really, instead of staying in one box, having that beautiful interaction that we also try to depict in this room with experts from all kind of different realms. So I did food, combining it with art and design. So this is a kind of more skeptical approach towards like street food, taking pictures of food on the street, literally. This is molten ice cream, actually in Zurich. So there, the Swiss connection. Or some coffee grounds. Trying to combine food also with stories and data. I did a really nice collaboration with people like Moritz Stefana. He's a quite renowned data visualizer for the OECD, World Economic Forum, so he does the most epic stuff, and his love for food would invite us to do events for clients where we would use food as a medium to visualize data. This was kind of vegan data, like a data set 2014 pulled off Instagram mentions and stuff. But yeah, I will keep these examples quite short because one thing that is, I think, at the very core of my work is always that notion of community. So it is really closely connected to that topic of living ecosystems. And some projects that started my focus was, for example, the Vienna Food Festival, realizing, okay, you can do, at the one hand side, street food festivals, where it's about this buzz of lively markets, but actually using this as a platform to also do conference tracks and pull in experts from different areas and invite them to talk about what can food be more than ingredients. It can be the connections to politics, to war, to consumer psychology, to philosophy, to arts, embodied cognition tools that we have and that we create. So I think it like adds a lot of these precious possibilities. I used to run a social business restaurant. So this was a job market political project where I was working with people 50 plus, long-term unemployed, day-released prisoners who still have to serve a sentence, but they're allowed to go out of jail to kind of work with us. And this, for me, was always about like empowerment and teaching and guiding. And it's as simple as realizing every one of us has an experience and a culture of food that they bring that is connected to their identity. So I would use food as an icebreaker to draw people in who have had a hard life so far. But one thing I know that they can is they can cook for their kids at home because they were long-term unemployed because they're single-parent moms, and the only thing I have to teach them is how to scale it up to like 50 portions or 100 or 200 and take really one day at a time. So it was like a lunch restaurant, fancy catering for galleries and events. And this also kind of brought me to MTF. The realization that I met Michaela at an event, and although I realized, okay, I would not know what I'm doing at a music tech fest because I kind of attach myself to food experience design as my theme, but she simply saw other connections that are a living ecosystem. So like that the platform that she creates just tries to kind of break these boundaries and just look over the rim of your plate. And yeah, so it's also projects like this one in Thailand was 2020. It was a food emergency project during the pandemic where we built a community garden, a farm, compost gardens with locals, with Burmese guests, with the Burmese community, with foreigners, and it was just so amazing to see how these political and social like animosities of, okay, it's separated groups usually on an island that is spearheaded by tourism, and it's about money and it's about levels and groups and bubbles of realities. How in that situation of a crisis we would like come together and realize, okay, we need something to do because there's so many people who had no jobs due to everything being shut down, locked down, and them highly depending on tourism and gastronomy, that people were just like sitting at home and didn't kind of have money to buy their foods. But the thing that we could do is grow morning glory within 21 days and harvest it and do it as a process together. So next to do that, I also do science communication, basically being paid to play around with stuff and 3D printing and programming microbits and ice balloons. So this highly remembered me also of our perfect input from Johannes and Fransisca yesterday. So it can also be about like working with kids and working with kids. So what I'm trying to offer today is a bit more that inspiration of notions that I connect to food as these moments of curiosity. You have the people who try something for the very first time and they don't even know what they put in their mouth. It's actually snails. The fascination about it, the doing it at a group, and then just observing and kind of going into your senses and itself, and at the same time kind of immersing, connecting to your surrounding, and kind of vanishing in that little experience that they had together. So food for me is always this notion of culture, identity, knowledge transfer, and just like the human experience. And I think that also connects a lot to what Jan said with the context. There's always this notion of like, why are you here? And I think this imposter syndrome that like Andrew also mentioned yesterday, we all feel that in this room. And yes, it's like for me it was from the very beginning, it's like I do food, so I don't even know how I'm deemed like privileged enough to be in a room with a bunch of musicians and technicians and like and researchers. So maybe for going into this why a bit, I chose a project that I'm working on since last year and trying to also draw the connections to some questions that popped up through the inspirational talks yesterday. So I started an artistic research 2021 for the Vienna Biennale, Flavor of Compassion, and basically combines food and the pro-social concept of compassion. And why I did that was basically starting from a point of change, struggle, complexity. Something that always resonates with me when I am in these like rooms of inspired people is the reality that we're always talking about the need to change, right? The need to overcome something to create a future rather than predicting it, really just like making it come into being. And I feel most of the time very overwhelmed when I am at events like here. And the first day is like so many inspirational talks and projects, and it's slightly depressing because I would not know where to change or where to even start. It's kind of that struggle, that feeling of I'm overwhelmed. It's like I know where I want to go, but I have no clue where to go there, how to go there. So we realized, okay, compassion has to do with that feeling of overwhelm, anxiety, of avoidance when we see the challenges ahead. And we worked with that through ice. Because in our conversations about that concept that resonated with me and my co-designer, Urshka Golov, who I started this project with, realized in our conversations it's always about, it has this description of like compassion is warmth and the lack of compassion is coldness. And I think something that we talk a lot about climate change, and I think something that goes unnoticed is like social climate. It's that notion of coldness, turning the back on someone, showing someone the cold shoulder. And realizing how do we overcome that. So we try to embody that and let people play with ice cream, because our notion of overcoming struggle needs curiosity and play, and I think sensory involvement, and that's why I went away out of IT, so I'm not stuck in front of that screen all the time. I want to work with people, and I want to know what compassion means to different individuals. I feel like I need a definition first, what it means beyond a word that gets translated to different languages and cultures, but I still don't know where to go from there. I need kind of actions, I need descriptions, I need those stories. I need a roadmap that is based in experiences. So we did nice ice creams and invited people to project their stories of compassion into those ice cream and helped them with tools and provided them with kitchen torches. Yes, it's like I give kids creme brulee torches, which is also very exciting. It's like, hey, yeah, like you're allowed to play with fire. But it's not as bad and dangerous as it might sound like. So we turned public spaces into spaces for creative exchange and playful discussions and trying to reach as many people from different backgrounds and ages. So I think what I want to offer for this brainstorming session in a way is one definition that I found within the research as well, that you probably have stumbled over compassion and empathy being like used very synonymously. Something that bothered me about empathy was always that feeling of, okay, I get like putting yourself into someone else's shoes is one thing, it's good, it's important, it's a skill, and everyone, or most of the people say it's like, yeah, of course they're good at it, like, yeah, I'm a very empathetic person. But for me, it's also that realization that compassion is trying to go that next step. Compassion can also be defined as empathy in action. And that's what we also want to do in this room, right? It is about translating things that are important to us into something that's tangible. So for me personally, compassion is about how we treat ourselves, how we treat each other. You can explore it in daily actions. We have our catering and breakfast and our food breaks and our coffee breaks all day, and do it in a curious way and very playful. It's a project that has been touring with the New European Bauhaus Festival, so we went to Brussels and were invited as one of the kind of open mobile, I don't know how they called the format, I forgot. It's like something. We went out and about to different public spaces. and also kind of co-designing this into more of a, it's not a project anymore. It's like kind of, I think it started as a project and then it keeps on growing. So for me, Flavor of Compassion is a project that is morphing into a mindset of how I approach the things rather than the what. And it's also what I would like to kind of offer as a mindset for this setting here, like to find compassion within our creative processes. It is the importance of the why and the context, as Jan said it. It connects to what Garand said yesterday, and like how and why it's the need for behavioral change. It is that translating into action will be a call for behavioral change, and other connections to what mediums we use. So I think that ice aspect is just like, can we do please ice sculptures? Something like that. I think that would be exciting. So this is why I thought I also offer a so-called icebreakers. I brought cookies. Unfortunately, only for the people here and present. I'm sorry. For the satellites. And can I just throw them around? I always wanted to do that. Yeah? So these are gonna go around, and it's an amazing sponsoring by Manolis Perourakis. I don't know whether I pronounce his name right. Admittedly, these have been sitting in my storage. So if you realize the cookies are not as crunchy and tasty, it's not about the cookies. It's about what's in there. What's in there is medium fortune cookies, GPT2, metallic stickers. That's your ingredients of that little piece of art. And basically it means that these little bite-sized fortune cookie wisdoms are quotes, and they have been generated by an AI algorithm. And it was a project where they were feeding their algorithm literature, and you would sit in a little chamber, or it was like, it's been a while, and you would hear those texts that kind of feel like detached, and sometimes, you know, from the actual fortune cookies, that they're being translated, and whatever they say don't really have meaning anymore, but you create your own reality of how you interpret it. And I love this idea that this work is a metaphor, how he says it on his webpage as well, you can look it up. This work is a metaphor of what artificial intelligence is bound to become in the future, a simulacrum of the next magnitude where the lost original is humans. The name of this work is Mucra Lumis, which is an anagram for simulacrum. So I would like to invite you to use these little fortune thingies, I don't know how to call them, as an icebreaker. You can approach each other. If you haven't done so, you can come towards me and tell me what's on those little labels, because I am very curious how many of those they had, like how many different ones. And of course, I didn't want to open them all by myself, so you can help me kind of establish that, and maybe there is a connection that you can find towards compassion and your personal work that would be fruitful. So I think that's it for now. I've got a webpage and some credits that are probably not up to date.
Thank you. Thank you, Fransisca.